Welcome to the Limitless Podcast. The Limitless Podcast is centered around exactly that, being limitless. Hunting, fishing, fitness, nutrition, adventure, disabilities. What may be covered during the Limitless Podcast will be, well, limitless. Stay tuned for this episode of the Limitless Podcast. Limitless Podcast listeners, this is another episode based in the traditional archery arena. That is the path that I am on for 2026-27 big game season. So there's going to be some content this year focused on trad bow, that journey for me, and all of the information that we can get and make sure that it's reaching all the people that might be interested in it. But as we typically do, I do a raw natural rundown of show sponsors for the Limitless Podcast. And remember, these sponsors, there's no kickbacks to me for this podcast. I keep this podcast funded by myself so that nobody can steer the content that I share with you and or the opinions or promotions of said content. All these sponsors, they are companies that I use their product and they are offering a discount for you and your benefit. So we're going to start right off the top. I have my trusty coffee mug here and it is full of Hunting Day coffee. They're based out of Virginia, family-owned rotisserie. I've just started calling them a rotisserie. They do not do chickens. They are coffee. That is a 10% discount on any order on their website. That's Be Limitless 10. We have Phelps Game Calls. Love Phelps Game Calls. Jason is a great dude. We're both from Washington State. 20% off your one order, not necessarily your first order, but 20% off one order at Phelps Game Calls. That's Be Limitless 20. That's not one item. That's one order. So spend it wisely. On Point Adventure Foods. They are a PA-based freeze-dried company, husband and wife combo. They both hunt. Great people. All of their ingredients are sourced out of the state of Pennsylvania. Some of their meals are seasonal because of that. It's incredible food. Give them a look. 10% off any order. Be Limitless 10. Vortex Optics, my favorite glass and optics. They do not deal directly with the consumer. So this discount code is through eurooptics.com. I use eurooptics.com myself. I've never had issues with that company. That code is VTXLMTLS25. Again, that's 25% off at Vortex. And then Wilderness Athlete is my supplement company of choice. That is a 20% discount off of Wilderness Athlete products on their website. That's Be Limitless 20. And then last but not least is a hot sauce discount. A retired Navy buddy of mine has a boutique hot sauce. This is homemade, small batch hot sauce. It is called the Love Sauce, and that's 10% off any order of $12 or more. And he is out of the state of Maryland. So with that said, I have Matt Zirnsak from the Push Archery on the show today, and we're going to deep dive into traditional archery, at least as deep as I can get. Matt, welcome to the Limitless Podcast, man.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
And you're coming out of Western Pennsylvania.
That's right. Just north of Pittsburgh. Yep.
Just north of Pittsburgh.
That's right.
And have you lived there your whole life?
I grew up all around the East Coast, following my dad's job. And then I've been here since my freshman year in high school. We've been kind of set our roots down here in Western PA. Okay.
And how long have you been in the trad world?
I started shooting archery in general, which was traditional archery, in 2007, 2008 timeframe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just after I left traditional archery.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
great.
I hung up my traditional stuff in 2005.
Oh, nice. Okay. Very good. And you're coming back this year.
I am. So I've been, man, we'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's lay some foundational work here.
Sure. Yep.
Now, When you started shooting trad, was that target, hunting, or both?
Honestly, my buddies, I was hanging out with them. We grew up like jump shooting rabbits. We would drive around in my buddy's car as soon as we turned 16, and like that's how we cut our teeth on freedom, is we would just knock on every farmer's door and see some, we called it rabbitat. You know, any habitat that was like, oh, that's thick and nasty, we would just dive in there. We didn't run dogs, and we just absolutely loved it. But while we were at their family farm, uh they would get their bows out, and they were using like 1980s Hoyts. This is like 2005, 2006, 2007
Okay.
time frame. And they're using like 1980s Hoyts, and they had no maintenance whatsoever done on these things. And it just seemed every time they got their bows out, like they were derailing their cams, stuff was flying off their bows. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is archery. Like this seems dangerous. And that's how I was exposed to archery for the first time. But when we would be home for college through the summertime, we have a local bow hunting club here, and it's diehard bow hunters. So you're shooting from tree stands. It's a 24 target outdoor course. It's super awesome. And we would go there and drink a few beers and hang out. And in the summertime, at least they did. And I really wanted to do that as well. So in February one year, I kind of told my fiance at the time, my now wife, hey, I really want to go and get into archery. And it had nothing to do with shooting targets, extending my bow hunting season, because I was a rifle hunter here in Western PA, like everybody. And I just wanted to hang out with my buddies on Tuesday nights at the bow club. And so I told her, like, I'm not sure I'm into compounds just from what I was exposed to, like stuff blowing up, which was a completely uneducated opinion. And I'm like, recurves kind of seem cool. And then that Christmas, she gave me my first recurve. And then it was down the rabbit hole ever since. Didn't carry a gun in the woods hunting since 2007. I've just been absolutely enthralled and obsessed with the flight of the arrow out of a recurve or longbow.
And what was that first recurve?
It was a PSE Coyote. I still have it hanging in the other room.
Do you?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that thing is a warrior. I loved it.
That's awesome. Do you still hunt with it?
No, no. Honestly, I've never killed a deer with it. So my origin story is interesting, and I guess it kind of plays into the push in general and the brand and the content that we create. But my start was really tough, and it's a very common start in traditional archery as well. I got that bow on December in Christmas time, and I shot that thing. I mean, I shot the limbs off of it all year round, got ready, and I had no mentors. And I had to go to
Mhm.
10 to 15 different websites to figure out like arrow tuning and just to have enough information to be able to shoot my first couple arrows. But I was a sponge, and I just started consuming as much information as possible. And that fall, I was so excited, got into the woods that fall. I ended up missing 7 or 8 deer clean that year. I was
Oh
really good at
my.
getting close to deer. I was super sneaky. I was using ghillie suits, and I had a knack for getting close to whitetails, but I could not at the point of execution, I couldn't make it happen. I was shooting high over top of their backs every single time. So then I close out that season with 7 or 8 misses. The following season, I have another 3 to 4 right off the bat. I missed 11 deer clean before I finally killed my 12th deer I shot at in my second season. So,
Wow.
like, it was such a frustrating start to traditional archery, right? It was just so frustrating. And I started getting better, right? I started like, year two, I shot 2 deer, and year three, I was just getting better, and the floodgates were kind of opening. But I started training, and I'm just, when I get my mind set to something, I just go full tilt with it. And so I started going to an indoor spot league. So I was shooting indoor archery, 20 yards at the World Archery multicolor face target. And I was like your bow hunter. I'm there shooting one of my bow hunting bows with a bow quiver on it and shooting instinctively. And I just wanted to keep it in the blue ring and in, right? You look at this target behind us. Like I just wanted, if I can keep it in the blue ring and in at 20 yards, that's the kill zone. That's all I'm
Mhm.
concerned about. I took a very dedicated bow hunting approach to it. But I noticed one day this guy was down the range, a couple lanes down, like 10 lanes down from me, and he's shooting a barebow rig, which is like this big, tall black one here. 27-inch metal riser, 72-inch bow. He's standing up tall, big classic T form, and he's doing this funky thing down the string. I have no idea what he's doing. He's grabbing the string like way down below the arrow, and he's holding it full draw, and he's bam, just shooting like a freaking man, right? And he is hammering that gold. And so the next week I got a couple lanes closer until I worked up enough courage until I was like, hey, what the heck are you doing? Like, how are you doing this? It was just mind blowing his level of precision and accuracy. And so he kind of took me under his wing. And then I went down the barebow competitive realm. And so I started competing in IBO world events and indoor competitions. And I got a crash course education from quite literally the most accurate single string non-sighted archers in the world going around this competition circuit. And that was the inflection point for me because I was taking everything I was learning from these amazing archers and I was porting it over into a system for bow hunting. And then I just started killing 5 deer a year, 6 deer a year, 9 deer a year. Like it just, my accuracy in the woods just exponentially grew. And from there, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Like that you can shoot these things accurate. You don't have to have 5 years of struggle. And there's guys out there that spend 5, 7 years before they kill their first deer with a recurve, right? And that was kind of the nexus of the push and why we started doing what we do.
Okay. So I have never harvested a big game animal with traditional equipment, and I started shooting in the 70s.
Very common. Very common. Like you wouldn't like, you as a hunter and as an outdoorsman, like that probably saying that and admitting that is kind of like, wow, that's not good, right? Am I a poor hunter? But that's just so common because I think the Hollywood creates this bias on how we approach these weapons. We watch Katniss Everdeen and Hawkeye and Legolas, and they're jumping over exploding vehicles and like, yeah, shooting it, hip shooting these recurves and stuff. And that's how people approach the bow. And the most interesting thing to me is you got these compound archers, and I will step up on the line with compound archers, and not a single compound archer doesn't look at me as I'm shooting my recurve and go, wow, that's really awesome that you're doing that. And we have a conversation. And eventually I go, hey, you want to shoot this bow? And they always say yes. They always are like, that looks so cool and so fun. But the minute they get that bow in their hand, I've just sat there and watched them for an hour, standing tall like a man or woman, coming back with their release aid, moving through their shot process, rotating their hinge release, bang, just super classic form, controlled, mentally executing their shot. And as soon as they get the recurve in their hand, their feet go wider than their shoulders. They crunch over like they're taking a poop, and they're doing this crouching tiger, hidden dragon thing where they're like winging these arrows in there. And it's like, dude, you have decades and decades of sweat equity that you've put into the craft of shooting your compound. And now, just because the weapon is slightly different, you're going to abandon everything you do from not only a biomechanics perspective, but a mental control perspective. And you're just going to completely change everything. There's no wonder they can't shoot them accurately. You need to leverage that sweat equity that you've put into shooting the compound and shoot the recurve exactly the same. We have found that the closer we can get our recurve shooting process to how the best compound archers shoot their compounds, the more accurate you are with a recurve.
Man, that's got to ruffle some feathers in the traditional world.
It's been a very long, arduous journey for the last 10 years. And it was rough the first 4 to 5, but I feel like we've really moved the needle. I mean, you can see it at these large traditional rendezvous and gatherings. I mean, you would stand on that practice line and it would be almost embarrassing to see, like, this is why there's stigmas out there, that there's shock and surprise in the compound world when they see a recurve archer and they're like, you hunt with that thing? Do you really kill anything with that thing? But now you go to these rendezvous 10 years later and it's impressive. Like, guys are just like keeping good groups. They're shooting at distance and they're running a good solid form and biomechanics process. It's wonderful to see.
So that's interesting that you're leading off with this. So I started out in the 70s, single digits with a little tiny, like, yellow limbed fiberglass
Yeah,
bow,
little white handle thing going on. Yeah,
100% shooting in the backyard. My dad was an archer in the 60s, mid to late 50s and through the 60s. He was one of the guys that when the first wheel bow hit the market, they all looked at it, they all laughed at it and said, that's not going to last. That's garbage. That is not going to last. It's a flash in the pan and everybody will be back to a stick bow. I don't know if my dad has ever shot a compound bow. And I transitioned from that little yellow bow to my dad's Bear Kodiak.
Cool.
And I don't want this to come off as if my dad is not an incredible mentor, because my dad is my outdoor idol and he is one of my fishing and hunting mentors. But in the world of archery, he was done with archery when I expressed interest in it, and he just started giving me his stuff and said, "Son, shoot in the backyard. If you want to hunt with a bow, as long as you can put every arrow in a white Dixie pie plate at 20 yards and in, go hunt with your bow. If you can't do that, don't hunt with your bow."
Yep.
And so that's what I did. There was no talking about arrow spine and broadhead weight, or, tip weight, or, hey, how many fletchings, or how big are your fletchings? It was go buy arrows. We didn't care about how it came off the bow, just as long as you could put all of them in a pie plate at 20 yards or less. That is what I learned on. And that is how I shot. And that's how I hunted off and on with traditional archery all the way up through 2005. I was making my own arrows from raw shafting. I was building beautiful arrows. I still have a handful of them because my dad asked, he's like, "How can you even hunt with those? Those are like amazing." Um, I made my own arm guard. I made my own back quiver. I made my own fletching jig. I was doing all the things, but I had a surface level self-taught education on how to shoot a trad bow. I could never figure out how to stop slapping the string on my forearm, so I have to use an arm guard. I never learned how to get arrows to fly true out of the bow, so you're not watching them fishtail all over the place. But I was accurate at 30 yards and less, and I loved hunting with that bow. But I left all that and went into the compound arena really, really heavy. And the last 3 years, I have now owned four traditional bows, and I've yet to hunt with any of them.
Why is that?
Honestly, it is just because I am so comfortable with my compound bows, and because of what you opened up with. Every time I pick up a traditional bow to start shooting again, I do exactly what you just said.
There you go. Yeah.
My stance widens. I'm leaned over. The bow is totally canted, and I'm doing everything. I'm twisting my body around to try to keep the string from hitting my forearm, because in my mind, that is the number one thing that I want to overcome with my trad bow. And I keep thinking, if I keep leaning over further, it's not going to hit my forearm.
Keep leaning.
Yeah. And what I have found through research is it has nothing to do with my body lean. It has everything to do with how I'm holding my elbow and my shoulder.
That's right.
Or at least my elbow. And so that's going to be a new adventure for me. But I bought a Samick Red Stag in 2013. It's a 60-pound bow.
Ooh, dang.
Terrible decision. I was drawing 70 between 70,
yeah, you're like, I'll drop a few
pounds
pounds,
with my compound.
Problem.
Yeah. Completely overbowed.
Yep.
I did try. I was shooting it, and I took it out hunting one time, shot clean over a deer's back. I put it away. Terrible combination. It was the first time I had ever hunted out of a tree stand, ever, with anything. First time ever in a tree stand. I'm shooting it with my 60-pound recurve.
Yeah.
Shot right over the deer's back. So I put it down. I missed that deer, clean missed it 3 times. That doe just stood there while I shot over back.
I've had a few of those too.
I put it down. I'm like, hey, I was like, that's not ethical. I'm not going to do that again. And I'm overbowed with this bow. So that's still out in my shop. It's such a heavy bow. I can't even get somebody to buy it for $50.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, back in the 70s, 80s, early 90s, like that was common, right? Like 55 to 65-pound bows were all over the market.
Yeah.
But people have realized, like, as our understanding of tuning, getting good, perfect arrow flight to leverage penetration downrange, the quality of broadheads, the quality of energy transfer in these modern limbs, like everything is just, getting us to the point where that higher poundage isn't needed anymore. And, modern string materials. And so a lot of traditional archers now are hunting in that 50 to low 40 range now.
Well, I went to a Great Northern longbow. I do not remember which model it was. And I owned that for a little bit. I never shot the bow.
Mm.
And I was encouraged to look at Tolkies, and I fell in love with the look of a Tolkien. So
Great bows.
I traded that Great Northern straight across for a Tolkien Whisperer.
Oh, sweet.
And I phoned an archery shop, told them what I had, what my draw was, and they recommended 450 spine for that bow. Now it's a 58-inch, 46 pounds at 28, and I have a 27-inch draw, so I'm drawing about 43 pounds.
Oh, that's sweet. It's perfect.
Could not get those arrows to shoot out of that bow because I think they're over spine for that bow.
Sounds like they might be.
So I got frustrated with that, put it down, and every year for the past 3 years, I tell myself this is going to be the year that I start shooting the trad bow again, and then I get a tag out west. And I tell myself I'm going to dedicate all my time to being spot on with my compound equipment for my Western hunt. So nope, I'm not going to burn time on the trad bow.
Yep.
And I've done that over and over and over, Matt. And last July, I was at a HHA USA shoot up in Wisconsin. One co-owner of HHA Sports, Chris Ham, is one of my close friends. And I was in the conference room at their main office, and there was a longbow laying in the middle of that conference table. And it struck me odd because I did not know of anybody at HHA that was shooting trad. They're a modern bow company. Mm-hmm. And I asked Chris about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Kurt Demerly's one of his bows. He's going to be at the shoot tomorrow." So Kurt and I, we had a discussion, and it rekindled that interest for me. And we chatted, and he was like, "Dude, I don't care what brand bow you shoot. If you want to, hop on a call or get on Zoom or whatever, and, I'll start walking you through some trad stuff. Yeah, pick it up and go hunt with it." Well, he has, he bought the plans for holy cow, what's it called? Starts with an E. It's sitting right here behind me. Anyhow, this is going to drive me nuts. Give me a second. The Endeavor. He started making the Endeavor, or it was he renamed the bow, and then he redesigned the limbs on it, and he calls this the Endeavor 2. And man, he put this thing up on Facebook a few weeks ago. It's a 58-inch bow. It's 40 pounds at 28. So it's
all of those camo veneers are sweet.
Isn't that awesome? That's what did cool. it. That's what did it for me. That old school duck camo.
Yeah, right.
Like,
come on, let's go.
I'll be drawing that thing at 37 pounds. What a great bow to just get back into the trad world with. Yeah. I love just looking at it. And so I'm starting to really dive back down that rabbit hole. I have the right spined arrows for it. And I watched, I'm trying to remember the title of your video. It's like 2.5 hours. Or
it's actually called The Push, a traditional archery film. It's our first video we put out there.
Man, that movie is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I watched it front to back nonstop, 2 cups of coffee, never left the couch. Man, I was just captivated. And yeah, when I was hunting shooting in the 80s with my dad's bear, I put a lot of time on the string. My instinctive shooting was locked on because I shot that bow so much. I never killed anything with it, but I shot it so much. I'm not at that level anymore. Mm-hmm. And I know that it would take me a long time to, if ever, to get that good. My eyes are not the same. I'm 53 now. I mean, so many things are different. So I watched that video that you produced. It's like, holy cow, I could ethically and efficiently hunt with my longbow this year. I can't start shooting it until last week of May, maybe first week of June, due to my surgery. And between June and September, I believe that at least 20 yards and in, I will be ready to kill
Oh
deer
yeah,
this year.
100%. Yep. Yeah, with a proper system and aiming technique, like there's no doubt in my mind. I've brought people under my wing. Literally, their first arrows were a month before season, like ever in traditional archery. I have an amazing story of one of our local buddies here who has never archery hunted a day in his life. And one of my other buddies was going to take him under his wing and, get him up in a stand and like just teach him about deer movement and stuff. He came over to the house with a brand new recurve that he just wanted to start with traditional archery. And I had a 1 hour session with him, showed him everything that, you kind of referenced in that video. And he started keeping it, 6 inches at 18 yards and in. And he went out like 3 weeks later and killed a deer. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I need to make a drive.
Yeah, buddy. We're not that far away.
We're not. No, we are
Yep.
not. So let's talk about that. Let's talk
Sure.
about that combination between gap shooting and string walking. And if you want to kind of get into the weeds on what they are independently and then how to bridge them together, however you want to cut that cake, that's up to you.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's bookend this a little bit by going through all the different aiming styles. But I think even more importantly, like if you have a heavy compound listener, there's a couple mechanics things that we should talk about. So whenever I'm like ushering in or discussing this with compound archers that are kicking the tires with traditional archery, I like to kind of compare and contrast the weapon platforms and the differences between them and how we need to leverage our own biomechanics to help replace some of these mechanical aids you see with a compound. So first and foremost, a compound has cams, right? That's the number one thing. So as you draw this bow back, it's a 70-pound compound, and then the cams roll over. It's now your holding weight's 10 pounds, 12 pounds, whatever it is, right? And so with that, you don't have to have like really proper biomechanics. You can have a bent bow arm, you can have out of alignment your elbows in front of the string, and you can still shoot this thing accurately because you have the peep sight aligned with your sight housing. You have a mechanical release, and you're not holding any weight. The bow's not trying to fold you over, and it's not like screaming at your subconscious, like, get me out of this uncomfortable position. You can just cam that thing over, find a good, comfortable, get everything aligned. So we have to become the cams. So you have to replace the cams with our biomechanics. And the biggest issue, number one issue, is alignment with a recurve or a longbow. So as you're drawing that bow back, a lot of guys, they will anchor. They find their anchor first and they prioritize their anchor point. And their anchor point's really important with a traditional bow. And I like to use a 3-point anchor. And so you got to find landmarks on your face that are hard contact surfaces to make sure that that's really repeatable, because that's going to replace your peep sight aligned with your sight housing. That has to be repeatable back here on your face. Okay. But the problem is like in the traditional community and everything you read, it's like middle finger, corner of the mouth. That's it. That's the only anchor point that you hear. My camera's going ballistic on
that
me.
Has been my traditional anchor point since the 70s.
Yeah,
middle finger, corner of the mouth.
So which is great, right? Oh, sorry, I'm boogering with my camera. Which is great. The middle finger in the corner of your mouth, it's a soft, spongy surface. In minute of angle, if you're off by an eighth, half inch back here, that's inches at the target at 20, 25 yards, right? So it's an issue. So hard contact surfaces, but what people do is everybody's shoulder to shoulder width, their humerus length, their forearm length, they're all different in comparison to each other. No one's built the same. So when we talk about alignment, is you want your string side elbow to be equal to or past the string when viewing the archer from the back. So for a right-handed archer, if you can imagine looking at a right-handed archer from behind, their bow's going to be in their left hand and their string elbow is going to come back to full draw. You want to look straight behind their bow, align their string in the middle of their limbs, and their tip of their elbow should be in line with that string or slightly to the left of the string, a little bit past it. And that's going to be your cam, because once you get past that point, the bow's going to try to fold you over backwards, not forward. The issue is people's elbows are 2 to 3 inches to the right of the string when viewing it from behind. And that bow, the entire time, 40 pounds, is trying to fold you over the entire time. And you can't move through a robust mental shot process when the entire time your subconscious is like, oh my God, this is uncomfortable. And if your float is another big thing with that, right? So with a compound, we have stabilizers, we have weights, we get back and we're always talking about pin float. but the float of your recurve is the same. And if you're not in alignment and the bow's constantly trying to fold you over, your float's going to be giant. And if your float's giant, as soon as your tip or whatever your subconscious sight picture says, that's what's going to get the arrow to the target, you're going to just dump the string and have a weak shot. So we need to, number one, prioritize alignment. We have to get back into alignment, get that elbow in line with the string or just past the string. Then we go to anchor, because the problem is some guys' forearms are really short, right? In comparison with the other linkages in the system. So they say, they predetermine what their anchor point is. I'm going to use the finger in the corner of my mouth. Well, if you draw the bow back to the finger in your corner of your mouth, depending on the lengths of your forearms, you might not be able to get into alignment, right? So your elbow looks like it's going to be pretty good. You have good linkage lengths to get you to where you need to be. But what we always promote, right? Tom Klum, the biomechanics guru, myself, we say, get into alignment and then come into your anchor and figure out what that anchor point is from there, right? Prioritize alignment first and then find your anchor point. And for me, my anchor point is the base of my thumb knuckle on the back of my jawbone, the base of my index finger on my cheekbone, and then I put my side of my nose on the side of the nock of the arrow. It's a 3-point anchor. So just think about a stool, a three-legged stool. If you only have two, there's still a degree of freedom there. If you only have one anchor point, there's a tons of degree of freedom. You put three feet of that stool on the ground, it makes a plane, it's solid, it ain't moving, right? It's repeatable. So that's like number one thing, like prioritize alignment, then find your anchor point, then we're ready to rock. So then that moves us into how the hell do we shoot these things, right? So there's a couple aiming methods, and it's the bias again is Legolas, Katniss Everdeen, Hawkeye, that this instinctive way. Instinctive archery, I have tons of friends and people in the industry that just kill so many animals shooting instinctively. But the pros to that is you don't really need to know the distance. Your subconscious is setting the arrow on a trajectory. But the thing that I think the biggest issue is that people tied instinctive shooting to traditional archery. And if you didn't do it that way, then it wasn't traditional, if you will. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is setting the arrow on a trajectory path, high or low, left or right, right? And whether you want to give that to the subconscious and shoot instinctively, cool. If you want to keep that in the conscious side of your brain, cool. I personally think we should be keeping it on the conscious side of our brain. Now, instinctive archery is just like they say, it's like throwing a baseball. You stare at the spot, you come back to anchor, and you run your shot. Snap shooting, which is you come back, and as soon as your sight picture gets there, the arrow's gone. That I think snap shooting and instinctive archery need to be severed permanently forever and ever through the ethos of traditional archery, because one is setting an arrow on a trajectory path, which is your aiming system, and then one is your mental shot process. Because with a compound, you come back, you get back into full draw, the cams roll over. As soon as that sight gets on the target, are you punching the trigger? We all would agree that's a bad thing to do, right? Yeah. We shouldn't be doing that. You should be putting that sight on the target, letting that pin float, and then running a controlled surprise break, rolling through your hinge, rolling through your index finger or your thumb button, whatever it is. We should do the same thing with traditional archery, regardless of how we're aiming the bow. I know I'm throwing a lot at you right now, but instinctive archery is repetition. The cons of instinctive archery is when you have a single bow and a single arrow recipe, it's going to take reps, thousands and thousands of arrows of shooting uphill, downhill to let your subconscious learn the trajectory of the arrow. What does 165 to 175 feet per second look like in flight, and how can it do the math and figure that out? That's fine. The only thing I don't like is I have an analytical brain. I'm an engineer by trade. I don't like leaving hope in my archery shot. So I know personally, when I step up to a peg on a 3D range and I'm shooting in pines, tunnels, shadows, and that target's out in the middle of the field, I look at that and I go, wow, that has to be 35 yards. And I range it's 28, right? My subconscious is going to be thinking the exact same thing. So when an animal steps out and I have this weird optical illusion happening and I shoot low, I hate the fact that I don't know why I missed that deer. And that's what instinctive archery is going to give you in the end of that missed shot, because you're not using a rangefinder. You're letting your subconscious set your arrow on a trajectory path. It can be lethal. It absolutely can be lethal. But I would highly recommend, again, we're comparing a recurve to a compound. Let's use the tip of the arrow as a single pin sight. It's right there in front of you. It's right in front of your nose. Why wouldn't we use it? Why would we intentionally look past it and ignore it and not use it for the sake of being quote unquote traditional? Okay. So there's a couple different ways and a couple different systems to use the tip of the arrow. So got an arrow here. So when we're aiming, for those of you watching on YouTube, while we're aiming, this tip of the arrow, because we're coming to a repeatable full draw, we're putting the same amount of energy into the arrow. We're in alignment. We're running our shot. This is a fixed single pin sight. Okay. So there is a point with your anchor point, with the poundage of your bow, with the weight of your arrow, and the length of your arrow. These are all variables that will determine what this single pin sight is sighted in for. You will draw back the bow, squint your left eye, stick the tip of the arrow on the target, and shoot a strong shot. The arrow will arc up and back down and hit exactly where you put your single pin sight. What is it sighted on for? Most traditional archers with their anchors shooting 3 fingers under. So I never recommend people going to split finger, 1 index finger over the nock, 2 fingers under. I always tell them to go 3 fingers under, because that's going to get that arrow closer to your eye. And that's
Okay.
going to reduce your point on distance. But even shooting 3 under with hunting weight arrows, hunting weight bows, and people's face geometry, like the distance from their eye down to their jawline, is usually about 30 to 40 yards is what their point on distance is, which is perfect for elk hunting, right? You want to elk hunt, that is an awesome system. But the problem is most people are whitetail fanatics. And
Yeah.
so when the arrow leaves your bow and it's arcing up at 15 yards, it's at its highest apex on its way to the target. And then it drops back down to 30 yards, which is your point on distance. So now you're saying, okay, what if that deer's standing at 15 yards? If I stick the tip of the arrow right on the deer's chest, the arrow is going to arc up and you're going to shoot way over its back.
Mhm.
So now, just like a single pin fixed sight on a compound, if you're shooting at a distance under what that pin is sighted in for, you have to aim low. The problem with gap shooting for most archers is that when you shoot, your gaps are gigantic. Like you're aiming at the hoof of the deer at 15 yards, which is almost unmanageable. And when you think about it, it's like, okay, I have a big deer with long legs or a small deer with short legs. You can't just stick it on the hoof of the deer, because that's going to be a difference of 6 inches on where that back line of that deer is. So
Let's throw out another variable.
sure.
You're you're in the Appalachians on a side hill,
Yeah, right.
or on the side of a ridge, secondary, tertiary ridge. You're on a steep angle, and you're in a tree saddle, and you're maybe you're 30 feet up into a hardwood
Yep,
because of how steep of the embankment you're on. If you're
that's right.
not at 30 feet, if they're uphill, they're looking you straight in the face.
That's
So
right.
now you have that you have to factor
A-
into.
Absolutely. So that's why rangefinders with angle compensation, it
Yeah.
works the same way, right? So if a deer is, at 15 yards and you're 20 feet up and you range it, it's going to tell you to shoot it for whatever. Shoot it for 12, shoot it for, 13. And so with gap shooting, what you'll do is you just basically, it's super simple. Address the string 3 fingers under the nock and bump your index finger up against the nock. Stand at 5 yards, put a horizontal tape across the bail of the target, draw back, stick the tip of the arrow right on that line, execute 2 strong shots. You should have a little group about probably 4 to 5 inches high. Then you step back to 10 yards, it's going to be 8 inches high. And then 15 yards, it's going to be 18 inches high. And then 20 yards, it's going to start coming back down again, 12 inches high. 25 yards, your gaps repeat, right? Because the arc of the arrow. So at 25 yards is going to be roughly the same as 5 yards. 20 and 10 are going to be similar. 15 is going to be your apex. And then 30 is going to be your point on. And so all you got to do is just map that out, write those down on a little card. And then through repetition, you could start getting really good. And honestly, it becomes very instinctive, right? We call this gap stinctive, because you're using the tip of the arrow to get your left and right windage, but you're not like looking at that target and going, that's 18 yards away. I need to be 22 inches below the chest. 22 inches is roughly about its, halfway between its hoof and its knee. I'm going to hold here, right? That's a lot of thinking to do in the heat of the moment. But what a lot
Mhm.
of guys do through repetition, they just know that sight picture looks about right. Like my tip needs to be hovering. There needs to be a little bit of a space between the tip of my arrow and the lower belly line of the deer. And it looks good. They get the green light, then they move on with their shot process. You could be extremely deadly that way. But the problem is again, different size deer really play a big role into what does 22 inches at the target look like.
Yeah.
So there's another little trick that people do. It's gap at target or gap at bow. And all this is how you visualize your gap. And the gap is the distance between where you want your arrow to hit and where you're holding your tip below the target. So what does 18 inches look like at the target at 22 yards? So at 18 inches at the target, so you're picturing looking at, 20, we're 22 yards away, you're looking at that target and going, okay, if I had a tape measure and I pulled the tape measure down from the heart, what does 18 inches look like? Some people can visualize that really easy and it's super simple for them. I actually visualize it better at the bow. So if you and I were sitting across the room from each other and I did this and I tried to squish your head, right? You're doing this. Your head is 12 inches tall, right?
Okay.
But when I put the top finger on the top of your head and the bottom finger at your jaw, right? What is that distance at the bow? It's only a half inch, right? I'm holding my fingers a half inch away from each other. So it's just how you're visualizing what your sight picture looks like. I prefer to look at it and go, okay, I know at 22 yards I need to set a half inch gap, right? So I visualize what a half inch above my arrow tip looks like. That half inch represents 18 inches at the target. So that's called California gap or gap at bow. So
Okay.
that's one way to do that. Okay. So that's gap shooting. Now the next complicated way to do this, and this is the most accurate way you can shoot a traditional bow, is called string walking. And string walking is basically a single pin slider in comparison to the compound world. So what we're going to be doing, instead of the sight tape being at the sight on the front of the bow, the sight tape is back here on our tab. And for the listeners, I'm showing Aaron a tab here that has a bunch of graduated marks down the tab. And
Yep.
what a finger tab is basically it's a plate that goes on in the palm of your hand with some leather that protects your fingers. And this plate gets butted up against the string. So each one of these marks on this tab represent a distance. So this is the higher on the tab is the further the distance. The further down the tab you go is the closer the distance. Okay. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to butt up against the string. This is going to be hard to show, but you're going to butt up against the base of the nock like this for every shot. This is your zero. It's like you're having to take your sight housing on your single pin slider and go to zero every time. And then you're going to make an adjustment. So what you'd basically do is you bump up against the nock. This is your zero. You look at the distance. You're like, that's 22 yards. You're going to then look at the marks on your tab. You're going to say, this is my 22-yard crawl. And you're going to stick your finger on the string right across from the mark that represents 22 yards. And then you're going to slide your tab down the string, keeping your finger marked on that string until the top of the tab is even with your thumb. And what this looks like on an actual bow, pulling my Black Widow off. So I'm knocking an arrow here. I come up to my zero. I then put my finger on the 22-yard mark on the string, and I'm going to slide my tab down the string until it's even with my thumb. And then now a far shot looks like this. I'm drawing my bow back for the listeners here. So a far shot would be I'm ran out of room. So in gap shooting, what's my point on distance? So for this bow, 45 yards. I bump up against the string. I come to full draw. Okay. Look at the distance between the nock of the arrow and my eye. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably about 3 inches, right? So you can imagine, since my bow is pitched up like this because it's below my eye, when I stick the tip of my arrow on the target, the arrow is going to go, the launch angle's high. So it's going to go a long distance. Now, if I want to go down to, let's say, a 15-yard crawl, I'm all the way down here. Now look at where the arrow is in relationship to my eye. It's right under my eye.
Yeah.
So now I'm gun barreling down that arrow. So now what we're doing is we're adjusting the pitch of the arrow, the launch angle of the arrow, just by simply using a single pin slider here. Now, this is how all competitive barebow shooters shoot. And these guys are the guys I referenced earlier, the guy that was down the range from me, pounding that yellow. He was coming down the string to a 20-yard crawl, coming to full draw, sticking the tip of his arrow right on the gold and executing the shot. That same guy can go out to 3D, estimates the distance. It's 15 yards. He goes down to the 15-yard crawl. Tip of the arrow goes straight in the middle of the 11 ring. He executes a shot. And the same for 30 yards. So the benefit of string walking is that your sight picture looks the same every single time. It's just like a single pin slider. You're always going to put the pin or the tip of the arrow where you want your arrow to go for every shot, no matter what the distance is. The problem for bow hunting, though, is a deer's walking in, and it's at 25 yards, turns broadside. You bump up against the knock, you look down, you make your 25-yard crawl, you look up, he's at 20. Shit. Got to start over again, right? Go back to 0, and he's moving, right? Nobody has time to do this. And how do you do that in low light, right? How do you do that in low light conditions, like right at first light or right at last light? Like, you just can't do it accurately, and it's really hard to do. And on top of that, these are mechanical systems, right? So when you draw back the bow, you're flexing the limbs back. And when you let go, the limbs come back to brace in time with each other, right? But if you're coming down the string a certain distance and you're drawing the bow back, you're preloading your lower limb more than your top limb at every distance. So you're changing the mechanics of how the limbs are coming back to brace. And so your bow is only really tuned at one crawl. So with a broadhead on the end of this thing, pretty much all your crawls except for one, your arrow is actually going to be perfectly tuned. We can get away with that with field tips and tuning our arrows, and making barebow competitive archery is all about considerations and compromises. It's like, okay, I'm going to shoot IBO Worlds. The max distance is 33 yards. At this competition, the World Championship, we're sharing a course with compound archers. Most of the targets are going to be at 27 yards. I will find a tune for my barebow rig at 27 yards and understand that on average, my arrows are going to be the best tune they can be, except for max distance and any targets that are a little bit less. But then you go to traditional world IBO championships, average shot distance is 22 yards. So I'm going to tune my bow for 22 yards and then make, considerations and compromises for other distances, right? So now let's talk about the hunting system that I use. So the hunting system that I use is what's called a fixed crawl, and it solves all the problems that we deal with. Gap shooting, we have giant gaps. They're almost unusable in the whitetail woods, right? I don't like aiming at the hoof of a deer to hope I hit it up in the chest. String walking, super accurate. Love the sight picture you get because you're just putting it on the heart every single time. But again, tuning is an issue. Low light's an issue making those crawls. So I'm going to turn around and grab my bow hunting bow. So this is my Hoyt Satori. It's an ILF bow, which means International Limb Fit Limbs. You can basically, there's hundreds of manufacturers making risers and hundreds of manufacturers making limbs. This connection system is standardized. So you can swip and swap. So I'm actually using French-made limbs with US-made riser here. This is my bow. And as you can see on the string here, I have a brass knocking point right here.
Okay.
This is where I knock my arrow. This is my brass knocking point. So what I've done is, the nice thing about ILF bows is you can change the tiller of these bows by adjusting the tiller bolts here. Very similar to a compound. You can adjust weight up 5%, down 5%, and you can adjust your tiller as well. So what I can do now is, I know at this shot distance, so now low light, deer's coming in, I don't have to look down and try to make a crawl. I slide right up against this knocking point. I'm going to knock this arrow here. So I'm going to slide my tab right up against that brass knocking point. Super repeatable, just as fast as gap shooting against the knock. So I've removed that whole string walking issue. Okay. Now gaps. This one right here represents a 20-yard fixed crawl. Okay. So at 20 yards, I just have to stick the tip of the arrow on the deer, execute my shot. Now, what I like to do is I use VPA broadheads. I don't have any in here, but I use a 3-blade broadhead. And what I do is I align my broadhead vertical in my sight picture. Okay. So when I'm at full draw with a slight 5-degree cant, my broadhead is perfectly up and down. And I paint the back of my broadhead, that blade, white for low light. So what I've done is tuned my bow to when I come up against this brass knocking point, when I say it's tuned for 20 yards, is the very tippy top of that broadhead blade is 20 yards. So all I have to do, it's a beautiful vertical single pin sight. So I stick the tip of my broadhead blade right on the heart at 20 yards. At 25 yards, like if I'm trying to shoot my nose right now, that's what 20 yards would look like. At 25 yards, mid blade. 30 yards, base of blade. That's what it looks like for 20, 25, and 30. But the beautiful thing about this is I shoot most of my deer at 14, 16, 18. That's what I do as a traditional bow hunter. It's a game of how close, not how far. With this, with my gaps, a deer's vitals 8 inches tall. I do not care if that deer is at 18 yards, 14 yards, or 10 yards. My sight picture looks the same as that deer's coming in. All I have to do is take the very tip of that broadhead blade and put it run it right up against the base of the chest at this crawl. So this system is whitetail medicine to where deer's coming in, I grab the string, don't even have to take my eyes off the deer, slide right up against that brass knocking point. Coming in. Is it closer than 20? Yes, it's closer than 20. I'm done thinking. I don't have to think about anything else. All I have to do is, when do I draw my bow, get the sight picture, run a strong shot. Come to full draw, stick the tip of the broadhead right on the base of the chest, let it eat. And it's whitetail medicine.
So question,
Yep.
let's see your bowstring again.
Okay.
So you have four points. 2 of them are tied. It appears that 2 of them are tied and 2 of them are brass knocks. So 2 of them.
Yeah, this one's tied as well.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah, that's just a tie on. So what some guys do is they will use tie on knocks, since if you want to go above your lowest one, it won't affect your tab very much. So if you want to shoot from this bottom one or you want to shoot from this top one, some guys will actually tie on different marks for different distances. So they can very easily like look down at the string, grab against the green one or grab against the red one, and they know that distance, if they're hunting Western game or whatnot. The reason why I have this additional knock set is simply because I use this string on another bow tune. So I was using different arrows. They were longer arrows. And so I didn't need to crawl down the string as much. And so that's another, like, if guys are wanting to gap shoot, they're like, I don't want to mess with this string walking thing. It seems complicated, but they just want to bump up against the knock and they want a simple process. I completely get that. And they're struggling with 30, 35, 40 yard point ons. There are some things you can do. You can run a slightly elevated knock height. So you can, again, traditional archery and barebow is all about compromises. So you could say, I'm going to take my arrow slightly out of tune by going with a higher knock point to get that arrow closer to my eye, right? So then it's just going to change the launch angle slightly, and it's going to reduce your point on distance. You can also run a heavier arrow. Heavier arrow is going to not go as far, so that's going to shorten your point on distance. But what a lot of people don't know is if I'm trying to shoot my nose, and that's what my point on distance looks like, okay, and I'm running a 29-inch arrow, what if I run a 32-inch arrow? That's what it's going to do. Look what I have to do to aim point on again. I have to lower my bow.
Yeah.
Right? So the difference between a 29-inch arrow and a 32-inch arrow is actually like a good amount of yards, 5-7 yards of point on distance in your sight picture. So there's things that you can do to make those gaps smaller, your point on distance smaller, if you don't want to mess with the string walking stuff or fixed crawl stuff. But those are the ways we go around. Again, whether you gap shoot, string walk, or fixed crawl, I think that they are the most accurate way for somebody to come in and within a season feel comfortable, feel confident, and be lethal with a traditional bow.
Okay. So tell me why you have a tied on knock point and a brass um, gap stinctive knock anchor? Why two different types? Why not all brass or all tied in?
So tied in, I like to be able to move them while tuning. So those tie-in ones are actually called like nut and screw knocking points. So there's a special way you tie them with a certain diameter knock tying material that the like if you look at your knuckles like this is the serving of my string, and when you tie on your knock point, they rest in between the servings like this.
Mm-hmm.
So as you rotate, you can spin them up and down like a nut on a screw. So
Okay.
as I'm tuning, you could twist those up and down and find that perfect tune. So that's why I use tie on knocks. But then the brass knocking point is if you tie on your fixed crawl knocking point, you still have to take your eye off the deer because it's not a hard contact surface. So as you're sliding up to that fixed crawl knocking point, you have to glance down and go, okay, am I on that soft knocking point? Am I at the right spot down the string? So I use a
Okay.
brass one because I don't have to think about it. I literally keep my eye on the deer and I slide up the string until I hear that metal or feel that metal
Okay.
touch my brass knocking point.
Okay. Is that knock? Is that you said it? Did you say wrap and screw tie?
Yeah, yeah. It's just a I don't know what it's officially called, like the actual knot. But you basically like you lay a pen or an Allen key across the string and you lay the knocking point material down like this, and then you wrap it around and then you come back through that hole and then you cinch it tight. Like that's kind of
Okay.
a and it's pretty simple. Once you learn it, there's a million videos on there on how to tie those in.
Sounds almost like either a prusik or a blood knot.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a Prussic, but it might be a blood knot. I'm not sure. I'm not sure
Okay.
what knot
All
that
right.
is.
And do you prefer that for your knock point?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the tie on knock points are the way to go. Like
Okay.
brass knock points, like you just when you're adjusting and like it's just too much of a barrier to get that perfect tune. With traditional archery, like arrow tune, guys will we watch Olympic archers and the arrow's doing this and it's bending and snaking through the air and it looks cool and it's like everyone talks about the archer's paradox. But what we found, like we have an online course for it's called Precision Tuning for the Diehard Bow Hunter. We have a system that you follow that will literally give you bullet holes through paper with any recurve or longbow at 3 feet, 6 feet, and 12 feet from the paper. So
Huh.
you want to check different distances when you're shooting through paper because your arrow might be in the process of bending like this as it's passing through the paper. And in space at one distance, you might be coming through in this line, you might be coming through with the tip, and the arrow is actually flexing as it's passing through the paper, and it gives you a false good bullet hole at 3 feet or 6 feet, whatever distance you're shooting through paper. That's why you always want to verify it by stepping back or stepping forward to see what actually is happening. And it's amazing. You'll see like a perfect bullet hole at 6 feet, step back to 12 feet, you have a half-inch tear. So we always shoot at multiple distances. But the whole point of this rant is you can achieve perfect arrow flight within feet of your arrow clearing your bow. And the important part is as your arrow is bending like this back and forth, there's 2 points along this arrow's length called the nodes of the arrow. Those nodes of the arrow are where the front third is bending one direction and the back third is bending in the same direction. And in between the two nodes, it's bending the opposite direction. So it's doing that, and then it's doing this as it's going through the air. There's 2 points along the shaft that aren't moving in space. And the important part is these nodes of the arrow need to be perfectly aligned when they strike the target. And that's going to maximize your penetration. You can't have the back node flying through the air above the bottom node or the front node. You can't have the back node flying below the front node this way, and same with left and right. When you strike slightly off line, the amount of energy loss that you're having in this arrow, because if you
Mm.
strike the target like this, the momentum is going to want to bend the arrow like that, and then it does this weird snaky thing through the rib cage, and you just robs you of penetration. So that this knowledge of tuning and this knowledge of getting these nodes aligned and how to get our arrows recovered as fast as possible preserving our downrange penetration and lethality allows us to shoot really low poundage. And a lot of people are just blown away when I tell them that I've hunted the last 4 or 5 years and killed truckloads of deer with 41 pounds at my draw length. That's it. I hunt with 41 pounds. It's the perfect weight for me because I compete with my bare bow in the off season during like with 39, 38, 39 to 42 pounds, depending on the game I'm playing. Whether I'm shooting 50-meter game or I'm shooting indoor, it's just I'm in that 4 pound window of like 38 to 42. And then I would always, my last competition is July, August timeframe. And then I'm going to be in the woods for early season here, trying to shoot does mid-September. That jump up to 50 pounds is just, it's awful every single year, jumping 10 pounds for my bow hunting weight. So we started going, okay, I'm going to go with 45 pounds, then the knowledge of tuning, and then, understanding broadhead sharpness and all these different things started coming into effect. And as the years went on, my bows kept getting longer and lighter in draw weight. And I've not noticed, my lethality is going up the longer bows that I'm shooting and the lighter draw weight because I'm able to execute a properly, like my bow is not putting my subconscious into fight or flight mode when I'm at full draw because I can draw it back, I can handle it, I can just absolutely manhandle that weight. I'm just calm and collected, and I can run a good biomechanics and then a good mental control shot.
That's incredible. So what length bow are you hunting with?
66 inches.
66 inches. Okay.
Yep. I mean, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I would have shouted on a mountaintop, and I did shout on a mountaintop many times that a 58-inch bow is the perfect bow hunting bow. Like, that's the length. Like, I'll never shoot anything in the whitetail woods other than 58 inches. And then I started with 60-inch bows, then 62, then 64. And it's like, as I started competing, there's a reason why the best archers in the world shoot 70-inch, 72-inch bows. Brady Ellison, the greatest Olympic archer that has probably played the game, 70-inch bow, 72-inch bow. The greatest bare bow archers out there, you see them on the Lancaster big stage, same thing, 70-inch, 72-inch bows. They're more forgiving, and especially if we're string walking and coming down the string angle is really important. So if I'm running a 54-inch bow, that string angle is real tight. So then now I'm going to go like down the string, and now I'm pulling that bottom string like way out of geometry for this little short bow, and it causes all kinds of issues. So I started looking at them like, how many arrows do I actually shoot in a year? I shoot roughly about 10,000 arrows a year, right? I shoot a ton of arrows. How many arrows do I shoot at game animals? Well, if it's a really good season, I'm shooting 15 arrows, 12 arrows at game animals. So when I do the math, that's like 0.1% of all the arrows I shoot out of the year. And so I'm going to make my equipment to the point where I can maximize my enjoyment and my accuracy and my forgiveness for the 99.9% of arrows I shoot in a year. I'll just set my tree stand up slightly differently, right? Like, guys are so concerned with how can you maneuver and how can you not collide one of your limbs with the environment shooting at a whitetail with a 66-inch bow. It's amazing how, like, I don't notice any difference at this point. I'm a mobile hunter. I have a lone wolf on my back. I have a small pack that I go in with, and that's it. So I'm moving around mid hunts. I'm getting down, tearing down. It takes me 10 minutes to get in closer based on what I'm seeing the deer doing. I just take this ninja approach to whitetail hunting, and the 66-inch bow, I honestly haven't seen any negative effects of it.
So for a guy like myself that's starting out with a 58-inch bow, and I'm going to utilize that gap stinctive setup, what are some hazards that I need to be aware of, if any?
So when you say you're going to utilize the gap stinctive, are you using the fixed crawl?
Yes.
Or are you going to bump up against the nock? So if you're going to use the fixed crawl, and what's your primary bow that you're using?
I'm going to shoot this Endeavor 2. So
okay.
It's a 58-inch reflex deflex longbow.
Yep. So so the considerations there, like with one-piece longbows, two-piece longbows, or even bolt down recurves like this Black Widow here, you don't have the ability to change the tiller. Okay. My camera's going wonky again. You don't have the ability to change the tiller. So as you're coming down the string, it's going to start growling at you. because you're going to be pulling back the lower limb further than the top limb. And when you let go, the limbs are going to come back out of time with each other, which is going to add noise and vibration to the whole system. And so you're going to have to just figure that out for yourself and how that
Okay.
bow actually handles that. Like we talked about this on a recent podcast that we had. Tolkien bows, they have amazingly forgiving tiller setup. We don't know what they do, what their magic sauce is over there, but you can run like an inch and a half crawl down the string, and that bow just, it's going to shoot. It's going to be quiet. The limbs are going to come back in relatively in time with each other. It's amazing. This Black Widow here, for instance, I had it tillered negative, which means the top limb is stronger than the bottom limb to counteract the effects of pulling the bottom limb further back than the top limb. So my goal there was to get it to come back in time with each other, even when I'm down on the string. And it worked really well. I can run a moderately long crawl on that. Not maybe not moderately. I can run down 4 large marks on my tab. So that's roughly right there where my index finger is. And that's not a very big crawl, to be honest with you. But some wood bows, you can crawl all the way down here and it's not going to give any flips about it. It's not going to growl at you. It's not going to, have weird tunes. But you're just going to have to test that out. Now you start coming down the string a little bit and it's giving you a little bit of problems. There's a couple different things you can do with a wood bow. One, run a slightly higher knock point. So again, all we're doing is we're changing the relationship of of your eye to knock distance.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. And we're doing that by coming down the string. Like if I'm anchored here, if this is my anchor and the knock is right above my index finger and I'm shooting 3 under, all we're doing is coming down the string and then coming back up to that anchor point, right? So coming down the string and then anchoring in the same spot. So that's all we're really doing. But you can do it a couple different ways. You can keep your fingers on the string in bow system in the same spot and just run a slightly higher knock point. Okay? So from the bow's perspective, it's not being shot any different. The limbs are being pulled back the exact same. The tiller that the manufacturer created is not being affected. You're just running a higher knock point. The problem is that to get a really good tune, to have these 2 nodes of the arrow aligned when you're launching the arrow like this is a little difficult. But another thing you can do is run an elevated rest. You could put a stick-on rest, like a bare weather rest on the side of that side plate. And now what you're doing is you're anchored here 3 under, shooting it where the bow likes to be shot. And now you're going to raise that whole arrow system up on that elevated rest.
So
and
you're no longer putting the shaft on the arrow shelf.
Yeah, that's right. You're putting it on that little elevated flipper rest. So now you've achieved a crawl and you're shooting it from where the bow likes to be shot, and you're just raising the arrow system up the string rather than moving your fingers down the string. So there's a couple different things you can do.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there if I want to see how the bow shoots in its manufactured state, and you're talking about the it growling at me, I understand all the mechanics of what's happening. Yep. Is there a chance that I'm going to either twist or blow that lower limb?
So this is my opinion. My opinion is if you're shooting a bow and the bow blows up or delams or there's mechanical failures with the bow, by simply shooting it with your fingers down the string by a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, that's not the right bow for you. That's just my opinion, right? Like there are plenty of bows out there that are being made by these craftsmen that handle ridiculously long crawls, and you can shoot them for your entire life and they're not going to growl at you. And even if they are slightly growling at you and you've added another couple silencers to the string to quiet that down, that you can still shoot it for your lifetime. Like if your bow is blowing up on you because you're shooting it the limbs are coming back slightly out of time with each other, I wouldn't feel confident in that bow shooting it normally.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Excellent.
That's just my opinion.
Excellent. What time is it? All right. So we've been going at this about an hour.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going, or you want to?
Hey man, this is your show, dude. I'm good. I'm good with whatever you want to do. I got you blocked off.
All right. Well, maybe we'll keep pushing
Okay.
a little bit further.
Nicely done.
So let's talk about that. Where did the push come from?
So honestly, that's actually a funny story. Our original name was Trad Tips, which, oh my gosh, thank goodness we didn't keep that name. Awful name. But our original film was The Push. So, like we talked about earlier, my origin story, missing 11 deer before I killed my 12th, struggled for years. And after I got a bunch of people under my wing and I started being successful with it, it was just all of a sudden, all my buddies that I referenced earlier, like recurve started going in the woods with them once they saw me being successful with it. I started competing. And then I got maybe like 20 people under my wing, and I had a really regimented system that I put them through. And if you watch the original film, it was that system. I would bring them to my bow rack. I'd let them spend an afternoon shooting all my different bows. What bow is attractive to you? What bow do you love the feel of that's going to promote you shooting the bow more, right? It's like some guys just aren't like when you look at compound arch. I'm taking a long way around your question, so I apologize. But some compound archers, there's two different versions of a compound archer that are wanting to come into traditional. One is they want something that's really similar to how a compound feels, and they're just wanting to dip their toe into traditional archery, and that's where you would get into something like this. They like the adjustability, they like the feel of a metal riser, they like to be able to replace their grips to be able to get it to fit their hand. They like to be able to have stabilizer bushings to add weight and get this bow balanced perfectly. So those are the guys that will like want to be on this more modern, more techie side of traditional archery, and they also love these aiming discussions. They love the fact, like, yes, why wouldn't you use the tip of your arrow to aim?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have the other avatar of a compound archer coming to traditional where they're so sick and tired of the technology in hunting that they want to go to a one-piece longbow, right? Or they're just going to the far end of the deep end of the traditional archery pool. And either way, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with either, whatever you're passionate about. You're one of these guys that are going towards that one-piece longbow side, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. So, um, anyhow, I started bringing these compound archers in. I put them through my system, and after like the 20th person, one of the guys was like, "Hey, you should write a book on this stuff. You really know your stuff. You're getting people lethal really fast." And I'm like, I'm not writing a book, but you're really good at videography and cinematography. Let's just make a video. And we actually like wanted to create a single piece of content that had soup to nuts, everything you needed to know about your shooting traditional archery, and arm you with enough information to like you can make informed decisions about the type of bow you want to run, the type of arrows, and then you understand all the aiming systems that fit you, and you can go out and actually be lethal pretty quickly. And we put that video out, and it was 2 hours long, and it's 10 years. Actually, I think pretty close right now. We launched it in May of 2016. So we're right at 10 years, and it's almost at 2 million views, which is shocking to me.
It's incredible video. Incredible video.
So we titled it The Push. Like we wanted to give you guys the push. So all you compound archers that are kicking the tires that are like, I want to try this, but they're nervous about their egos of not being known as the killer in their bow hunting group. The guys that were nervous for the animal's sake, like I lose sleep for weeks after I wound an animal. Like we wanted to give you the push of like, here's all the information. You can feel confident, like you have a community here in the Push Archery. We have the knowledge. We're sharing it openly. Go give it a try. Like you will absolutely love it. You can do it. And so that then after like video 5 or 6, we decided to switch our brand name from Trad Tips to The Push.
Okay.
And thank goodness we did.
Right on. No, it's a cool name. So I'm going to share with you how I found you.
Okay, cool.
I talked about going to that HHA shoot where I met Kurt Demerly.
Okay. Yep.
It was just before that shoot. When I'm shooting a 3D course, I don't like a big, bulky, noisy hip quiver.
Okay, cool.
The first 3D shoot I ever did, my circle of influence said, "Hey, you've got to get the the Kifaru hip quiver. It's the best one on the market, get that. So I spent the money on it. I bought it. I used it on one round on one course. I never used it again. It's sitting out in a plastic tote in my shop, just not being used. The first ATA that I went to, I think it was in 2021 or 22, Boning had a little plastic pocket quiver. It holds a couple of arrows. It's got a little clip on it, goes inside your back pocket. They were handing them out. I grabbed one of those. I thought it was really, really cool. It's really cool if you're wearing the right pants. But if you're not, if it's a loose pocket, it wants to flip out of your pocket. Sure. So I love the idea of it. I just didn't use it a whole lot. I was prepping to go to this HHA course, and I saw a picture of your pocket quiver on the internet. Had no idea that you were strictly traditional archery. I ordered one. I have an archery nonprofit. So I got that little quiver from you guys, fell in love with it. And I sent you a couple of pictures of me shooting it at another amputee and in pictures and stuff like that. I was like, hey, this thing's brilliant. That is how I found you, through that hip with that little pocket.
Oh, that's quiver. Cool. Yeah, that's great.
I love that thing. Really, really love that thing. Now I'm a mobile hunter as well. Not mostly. I am a saddle guy.
Okay.
Most of it is a lot of backcountry or pack hunting. I want to park at a trailhead, pack in, and then I set up a spike camp and I want to go hunt. And I do that with my tree saddle. And I'm always playing around with my pack and my loadout. And I have now started hunting even locally with a framed pack because I hate dragging deer. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I've stopped putting myself in the position where I have to drag deer. So I hunt locally with some type of a pack frame. And then when you start looking at the different pack frames, like I have my Badlands pack frame. It has a modular system, so I can put different sized bags on the frame depending upon where I'm going, for how long, what I need. I can get multiple different platforms on that frame, so I can use a small latitude X-Wing. Last year, I started using the Superfly by XOP. That will sit on that pack frame underneath whatever bag I'm using, whether it's a 2,000 cubic inch day pack or a 6,500 cubic inch multi-day pack. That Superfly or the X-Wing will sit up against that frame. It's brilliant. Yep. I can now get my sticks underneath that as well. I'm starting to look at your little bags that you have on your website, and they're piquing my interest a little bit. Now I'm losing my pack frame, but what I can do is I could use that small pouch that's on my hip. And then now I'm just using a frame that has my pack shelf on it, my meat shelf on it.
Yep.
And it can also carry my platform and my sticks. And it's incredibly mobile for 4-hour hunts, local all day hunts.
That's why I created that. That was our first pack was the Alpha pack. Actually I have one here laying here. So this is the Alpha pack. So we designed this thing to be a minimalist bow hunting pack because same as you, I'm a suburban hunter, a semi-rural hunter. When you look at my Onyx, I'm a door knocking fiend. I'll knock on 40 doors every single year because things change, right? People will get complacent and they have their honey hole and they've hunted there for 15 years. And all of a sudden that lady, her husband dies, she moves into a home, the family sells the property. You just lost your hunting. Now what do you do? So I'm always looking at all the properties. When you look at my Onyx, I have a color coding process for waypoints. If it's blue, I have permission. If it's red, it's a property I need to door knock. And if it's brown, I've door knocked there. I didn't get the yes. And I have detailed notes of what the date I stopped by, what the conversation we had. And if it wasn't a hard no, then I always ask at the very end of my door knocking spiel, thank you for your time. Do you mind if I stop back next year to see if your situation has changed? And 99% of the time, they feel so bad for saying no that they give you that yes. And then after 3 years stopping by, they give you a yes. So sometimes there's a long game played there. Anyhow, long story short, I'm I'm always moving around from 3-acre properties, 20-acre properties to 300-acre properties. Like I hunt big farms and small parcels. But no matter any one of those properties, like I'm not, depending on access, the wind direction, like my walk-in is very rarely over 300 yards. So I don't need a lot of stuff. And I'm always hunting in the evenings or in the mornings, 3 to 5 hours at a time. I don't need anything. I got so tired of sitting in a tree, having this giant movement to get to a bag that's hanging down. And I'm a traditional bow hunter, so I'm usually set up right outside their bedding area. I want to shoot them within 60 yards of them being on their feet for the evening. And so I wanted something that I could just have all my essentials on my hip, on my weak side, within arm's reach, no matter what. So we very purposely built this alpha pack. Everything. This top pouch was for milkweed. I fill this thing with milkweed up. And it's nice because when you zip it up, you can just like unzip and rezip, and that milkweed gets caught in the zippers. It's a little dispenser. Again,
Nice.
minimal movement. Like everything on this pack is designed. I have the rangefinder pouch built in, no molly. I'm not trying to sell people additional gear. Rangefinder pouch comes here. It's quiet. It has this little bungee here, and you reach in, you pull your rangefinder out. It's very simple. On the inside, and then if you're a turkey hunter, 2 pot calls fit in here, and then these bungees are for your strikers. Your strikers slide down behind this pouch. And on the inside, also for these straps on the top, they unzip so you can roll up your outer layer as you're sneaking in, or if you're on a 3D range and you have a rain jacket and it stops raining, you have somewhere to put it. And on the inside here, I think this one is a show unit. That's why there's some stuff in there. And on the inside, max storage and organization. So I usually have a set of pruning shears here, little flashlight in this one, all my licenses, my spare tab, maybe a spare string hangs in here. And then the volume of this is really big. You could fit a full Nalgene right inside there if you want to. Plenty of room for snacks if you are a person that likes to eat or snack. I usually just stick like my gloves down in this main pouch as well. It has the thigh strap. This thing is built to move with you. So this straps on. We designed it to go on your hip at the truck. It doesn't come off your hip until you're back at the truck. You can drop your tree stand if you see a deer, start crawling around. This thing just stays right on your hip the entire time. All your essentials are there. And then if you're a backcountry hunter, you could drop your pack, make a stalk. You have all your gutting knife. You have everything you need stays right here on your hip. And in the 11th hour of the design phase, I'm like, God, I love this pack so much. All the prototypes, I love using it. It did so well in the woods. I'm like, I wish I could use it more throughout the year. And then we added this high volume, high capacity quiver pouch. It's lined with luggage material. You could put 36 arrows in here easily. And now it becomes a pretty awesome quiver as well. And so,
no, that's a nice piece of kit. I like that. I do. I like that.
yeah,
I might have to play around with one of those this season.
Yeah, they're really awesome. That's all I use, and we build everything out of 1,000 denier Cordura. Most other companies are using 500, and so my alpha pack. If I step in the woods, whether I'm scouting, hunting, hanging tree stands, tracking, no matter what happens, that alpha pack's on my hip. And my hunting one, I use a multicam version of our alpha pack, and it's been on my hip. I think it's going on its 8th season.
Okay.
Yeah. So they wear like
I love it.
Yeah.
So as close as you talk about getting to deer,
yep.
I'm surprised to hear you say Nalgene bottle. I cannot hunt with a Nalgene bottle because of the slosh. It drives me.
Oh yeah.
Nuts.
I don't hunt with a Nalgene. I always reference a Nalgene because of the 3D archers.
Okay.
You know,
I carry what's some people call it a platypus bag. There's
a
couple of different brands. It's a 1 liter water bladder.
Yep.
And that's my go-to for carrying water.
Yeah. Yeah. I rarely bring any snacks or water in. It's a very rare day. If I have, the only time I do it is like if it's rut and I know I'm going to be doing an all day sit. And I don't do all day sits very often, but you know, if it's a morning hunt or an evening hunt, I usually don't have any water or food with me.
I use those small water bladders because you can loosen the lid on it,
squeeze the air out,
just squeeze the air out of it.
Yeah,
and there's no sloshing. Yeah. That's a really, really nice bag. Really nice bag. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we should end this one because I can keep talking about this stuff, but it's a matter of keeping somebody engaged, listening to it
Sure,
in one long shot.
100%.
So maybe we'll do another recording together. I will
Awesome.
ask you this though. I want to end on this topic. Have you been over to the Eastern Shore to hunt sika yet?
I have.
Okay.
I've done it once, and it was a super fun experience. Yeah, it
Where
was great.
whereabouts? Which
Oh, geez, you're gonna really test me here.
well,
So I have a couple buddies that live in Maryland,
okay.
and they hammer them every year with their recurves and stuff, and so they offered me to come out. And I mean, if you named one of the big areas right on the coast, it would probably be there.
But you were in Maryland?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dorchester?
Dorchester. That
Okay.
area. Yep.
All right. Well, if you want to come do it again, I will. And this is one of the reasons why I'm going to jump back into trad this year. A friend of mine, I go to church with him, and we're in a men's ministry together called Men's Alliance.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's the hat. He introduced me to a place and style of sika hunting that's, man, it's incredible, but a lot of it is really, really tight quarters.
Cool.
Very, very tight quarters. And I decided I wanted to hunt them this year the way I really enjoy muzzleloader hunting. And I love muzzleloader hunting from the ground with a little ground chair. And I bury myself in some type of mountain laurel bush or thicket. And then I just sit there in that confined space, and I shoot most of my deer with my muzzleloader at 40 yards or less.
Right.
And where I'm hunting these sika in this particular location, I might have 2 or 3, maybe 4 shooting lanes, and they're at 20, 25 yards tops.
Right.
Those sika are going to pop out in a really confined lane, and they're going to be at mostly 20 yards or less.
Very cool.
And if I'm sitting on a small pedestal stool in this brush, I can have that trad bow sitting in between my legs, or I can already be sitting sideways in the chair.
Yep.
And I mean, you can stick the tip of that trad bow against the ground and hold the string against your body, and the bow is stable.
That's right.
You just sit there for hours.
Yeah, that sika environment is so interesting. Like, that was such a really cool, like, we're in the swamps going in with waders every day, and man, you get set up in the tree. We have a few sika hunting videos on our channel, and from these guys. They're the Just Hunting crew. George and Glenn, they're just awesome guys, and all of their successful hunts are very similar to what you said. Like, they're using mobile stands and everything, but when you look at the environment, when these sika like appear, like, they literally appear, they're like ghosts. It's like, bang, oh my gosh, they're at 12 yards. Like, it's like that. It's amazing. It's cool.
Yeah, it is. So that's what's the big encouragement for me is I know that in this environment, I can just sit there with a very close yard shot. And last year with my compound, my slider sat at 20 the entire time I was hunting sika in this location.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, and then I watched your film, and I'm thinking, this is brilliant. I can sneak in there with, I mean, it's a super light bow. It's so nice carrying this stick bow around. It's a feather.
For sure.
It's a feather.
Awesome.
And so, I'm committing 50% of my time this year is going to be with the trad bow.
Awesome.
So if I carry my compound on a Tuesday, if I go hunting Wednesday or Thursday, it's going to be with the trad bow.
Sweet.
That's just the way it's going to be this year.
That's great. Well, good luck, man. I'd love to see you send me a picture of sitting behind a sika. That'd be sick.
I will. I'll send you a picture sitting behind anything.
There you go.
Right on. Any last thing you want to share on this episode?
Nope. I appreciate you having me on there.
All right. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in. Find us on all your major podcast platforms. Give us a thumbs up, leave us a review, and please share the content. And last but not least, be limitless.